Well, for those of you that are new to this, we generally every month we do, well, for about a couple of years, every month we do ShoreTel administration training, more for the system admins on the technical side. And this just recently we started doing ShoreTel user training, and this is our second of that, and we did our first last month. So we're excited to provide this additional service to ShoreTel users across the country. So welcome everybody. Just to let everybody know, you could go to our website and you can click on the right on the home page. You can register and go see all the webinars that we have coming up. For those of you that have contact center, we also every quarter do a very contact center specific webinar around agent engagement, and we do ShoreTel Contact Center admin training every other month. So we're big on educating. So if you could go to the first slide, Nick. So as introductions here, again, my name is Travis Dillard. I'm the President and CEO of Inflow Communications. I will just be doing a quick introduction and letting all of you know who we are, and then I'll hand it over to Nick Montron. He's our Client Relations Manager. He is one of our top ShoreTel and Contact Center UC engineers, and so he'll be doing the user training today. Next slide, please. Agenda, pretty basic. Who are we? For those of you that don't know us, we have a lot of customers who know us very well, and then we have a lot of people that are not our customer. So hopefully soon you will be our customer. But you can take a look at we're going to talk about who we are. We'll get into the training, and then we'll talk about questions and answers. Next slide. So who are we? For the people on this call, what's important? We are ShoreTel. We're a platinum partner. You get platinum status. There's only a few in the world, really, and that's based on certifications, volume, experience, and customer satisfaction. ShoreTel ranks us, and there's I think an authorized, a silver, gold, and a platinum. So we're at the top of the mountain there. We're the top 3 in the world for ShoreTel Circle of Excellence. So we just won that award in 2015. And we are ShoreTel's Contact Center Partner of the Year. That's a global award, which means that we have the most volume, certifications, and project success around ShoreTel contact centers. We support over 100,000 in ShoreTel endpoints, and we are a national company, so we support that's across about 500 to 600 customers all over the world, primarily in the U.S. And if you don't know anything about us, you can if you don't remember anything, take this away. Our sole focus is really on ShoreTel and Contact Center, and that's our craft. That's what we focus on being the very best at. Next slide. These are just a few of our customers across the country. A lot of these people, all these organizations have multiple locations. Most have contact center. So we focus we focus a lot on the larger enterprise customers. Next slide. I think what makes us pretty good at what we do, we're very fast. So our X factor is speed. We respond quickly. We communicate with urgency. We resolve quickly. We take all of those metrics, and that's not just for our support, our ShoreTel support, but that's across the board. That's our accounting office, our business office, sales, and we take all those stats live. We put them on our website. That's unfiltered, not just for our help desk, but also our back office. Up to 10% of our employees' compensation is tied to those metrics. We have a 3-ring answer policy. We're big on speed. And we also, if you're new, or if you're an Inflow customer or you're new, you'll notice in all of our email signatures there's a place where you can click a link if you ever feel like you've received less than world-class customer satisfaction, or we fell short of our 8x guarantee, which we guarantee will be 8 times faster to respond than the industry average. Click the link and you get a $100 Amazon gift card. So we put our money where our mouth is. It's very important to us to provide superior support and response for our customers. And the reason we can do this, the reason we can I think excel in these areas is because of our core focus, but we also focus on a core customer too. We focus on generally customers that appreciate partnership, education, and premium support, and they generally have mission critical communications, which means that we aren't taking on any customer and diluting our focus for the core customers that we want to support. So next slide. This is new. If you haven't been to our website, go. We just launched our new knowledge base. We're really excited about it. So on any one of our pages, inflowcommunications.com or inflowcom.com, you'll see that orange square up on the top that says knowledge base. If you click on that, and we're constantly adding to this. We launched this actually a couple weeks ago, but we have We're taking all of these training videos we've been doing for the last 2 years, we've been cutting them into mini videos and embedding them on, putting them up on our knowledge base. They're also on our YouTube channel, so you can go see every training video we've ever done on our YouTube channel. But we also have ShoreTel tech articles, all of our blogs, our case studies, training videos, white papers, all of that's up on our knowledge base. Our goal is to have the most robust ShoreTel and Contact Center knowledge base really in the country, and we're adding to this every single day. So we're really proud of this knowledge base, and it's all ungated and unfiltered. So please go up there and use the search tool and see if you have any questions. Specifically, a lot of the content now is still on the administration side, administering ShoreTel, but we're going to be adding user training videos and a lot of that stuff. So for some of the people that might not be administrators on this call, we're going to be adding a lot of end user training videos too. So a lot of good assets, a lot of good assets up there. Next slide. Okay, so this isn't the end. Nick's going to put this slide back up before we adjourn today, but if you have any questions, please contact training@inflowcommunications.com, and there's our phone number, 8444-INFLOW, and I also put the URL up for our knowledge portal, but you could just go to our website and click the big orange square. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Nick to start our ShoreTel user training. And if you have any questions, please use the question section on the GoToWebinar here. And we have Tom Lyons, another one of our fantastic engineers that's moderating, help Nick moderate the session, and he'll be fielding those questions and getting them answered. So I'm going to hand this over to Nick. Thank you very much.
Good morning, or probably afternoon for some of you. We're going to be covering ShoreTel Communicator today. Specifically, we're going to be starting with the contacts area of Communicator, and then if we have time, we'll move on to some other options as well. So the first thing with the contacts tab is sometimes it disappears or you don't have it at all. So if you're missing the contacts tab, all you need to do is click up here on Windows and then go to contacts, and that'll add it back in for you. So the contacts tab is kind of like a buddy list or a speed dial list. Here you can add anybody that you're communicating with frequently, and that's internal or external. So I can have all of my Muppet friends who are on my ShoreTel system here. Because they're on the system, I can see what their status is. So right now, everybody except for Kermit is green. Kermit's offline. If any of them were to go into a do not disturb status, like I'm going to do up here, you'll see that status immediately change. You can also add in contacts for people outside of your organization. You can use the speed dials as well. And we'll go over adding those here in just a moment. For the contacts, there are two ways to add contacts. You have an add button up at the top here, and that lets you type in the name of somebody in your organization, and it'll autofill for you. You don't have to spell out the full name. So we've got Gonzo here, and we see that it's extension. Or for an external contact, I can have my mother, and say OK, and it'll pop up a box to add in whatever details I want. And I can fill in any phone numbers that I want to put in there. And in just a moment, we'll populate. And you see that the contact's gray because my mom's not on the ShoreTel system. So if I went to go call her right now, it would actually dial that outside contact. From the Contacts tab, anybody you double-click on, the system will call them. So if I double-click on Fozzie Bear here, my phone sitting next to me actually started ringing Fozzie Bear. And I can hang up from Communicator here as well. If you'd like to add more than one contact at a time, and this is a little bit more of an advanced function, but we can try it out, you can go to your Directory tab. And the Directory tab is a listing of everybody in the ShoreTel system. That includes auto-attendant menus, all sorts of different things. And the thing to note about the directory tab is if you have a lot of contacts in your directory, it doesn't populate the whole thing at once. You do have to scroll down to the bottom and it'll add some more, scroll down some more, and it'll add some more. So if I wanted to add a few folks, I can hold down the control button on my keyboard and select individual people. And I can then hold down my left mouse button, left click and hold down, and drag that group down to my contacts tab. And I'm not going to let go yet. I have to move my mouse back up into the white area here. And then once I let go, it takes a second while it thinks about it, and then it adds those folks to my contacts list. So a little bit easier if you're adding a lot of folks. If you're new and you need to add a bunch of people in there, you can do it that way as well. There, unfortunately, at this time is no way to import or copy somebody else's contacts list, so you are stuck doing your own. And by default, you have one group here. So I have my contacts group. I can add multiple groups if I'd like. And all I have to do is right-click down in the white area here, and I'll have the option to add a group. The groups are ordered alphabetically, so if I want a group to show up at the very top, I'll usually prefix it with a couple of A's just so that they show up at the top. And there's my new group, and like it says, I can drag contacts up there. Rizzo is personally my favorite. Somehow the Swedish chef didn't make it in here. He'd be at the top of the list. And then I can minimize these groups depending on what I'm doing. Also from the Contacts tab, anybody you see in here, you can right-click on their name, and you have all of your options available for that person. So I can, if you have instant messaging turned on in your system, you can send them an instant message. I can directly dial their mailbox if I just want to leave them a message and don't really want to talk to them today. And if I have the features turned on, I can also intercom, whisper. If their phone is ringing, I can pick up their phone call if I'm allowed to do that. And one of the best features in the Contacts tab is Alert when available. If I click on this, and it's gonna, and Gonzo was actually on the phone. As soon as he got off the phone, I get a pop-up saying Gonzo is off the phone now, and would I like to call him back? The nice thing about ShoreTel's alert function is it doesn't automatically call them, because half the time, if somebody's been on the phone for a long time, they get off the phone, they might step away to go talk to somebody else or go grab lunch, and then your phone's automatically calling their phone, and they're not there, and then you're talking to their voicemail for a while, trying to figure out why your phone called them. So this alert function is a lot nicer. I like it a lot. And I'm going to turn that back off because Gonzo's never going to be on the phone. I can also add more info to contacts. If Gonzo's on the system, but I also know Gonzo's cell phone number, we can edit that in there as well. You also have the quick buttons up here just above the search box. If you have any of those folks highlighted, you can use the dial mailbox or IM from there. If you have a lot of contacts, you can also use the search function here to find them. And it will narrow down in your contacts list. Tom, any questions so far on the contacts list? All right. Again, if anybody has any questions at all, there is a questions box in
We just got a question.
Controls there.
What does the pink or yellow indicate? So maybe talk a bit about presence.
Yeah, so our presence icons here, Brendan is offline, so he shows up as pink. And that's only for folks that are on the ShoreTel system. So like my AdTran support phone number here shows as gray because it's not on the system. So pink, offline. Green is available. Orange is on a call. If I can make my phone go orange here. There we go. Now my phone is orange because I'm on a call. And if I hover over my name, I can see who I'm on the phone with. This doesn't work in all systems. It's something that can be disabled by the administrator. Sometimes it'll only show that I'm on the phone, depending on how that's set up. Hang up that call now. And as soon as I hung up, it immediately turned green again. It's usually pretty quick about updating this call handling. And then if I'm in a do not disturb mode, it turns red with a white line through it. And that just means that if I try to call myself right now, it goes straight to voicemail. If we hover over Fozzie, we can see a little bit more status about Fozzie Bear. He's in standard call handling mode. Get that to come back. There we go. And IM status is offline. So if I tried to send him an IM, he wouldn't get it because he's offline. And our system's set up to deliver. Even if they're offline, they'll get it next time he signs in.
And you can see the other presence next to your telephony presence up above. You can change your IM presence to the right of it. Yeah.
We have our IM presence here from the kind of the call handling modes to do not disturb. You can also set a status note. We usually suggest that people use this if it's turned on, just because a receptionist or a front desk person doesn't always know everybody's status. So if I'm going to be in extended absence, I'm going on vacation for a couple of weeks, the nice thing to do is set a status note here. I wish. Okay. And now, if you hover over my name, you can see my IM status, my custom status that I typed in there. That way, if somebody's transferring a call to you or trying to get a hold of you, they can quickly see whatever your status that you've set. And then if I go back to set status notes, I can just delete that and reset myself back to normal. Any other questions so far, Tom?
We have a couple more. Michael Heil asked if Communicator can import contacts from Active Directory. And then also, can you IM people who do not have a phone but are in Active Directory?
So for IM to function, you need the SA100 device or the SA400. And instant messaging has to be turned on by your system administrator. And then above and beyond that, the individual users have to be enabled to messaging as well. They do have to have the ShoreTel client running, the Communicator client running, in order to receive those instant messages. So they don't necessarily have to have a phone on and running, but be signed in the Communicator to receive those messages. It's not going to transmit them anyway through Active Directory. With the Active Directory sync, there are a few options there. One of the big pros to the Active Directory integration is that you can, instead of using your default Communicator login, you can use your Active Directory credentials. There is some contact syncing available. It takes a little bit of work to get it perfect. We've definitely seen some issues where if you sync at the wrong time, you double up your contacts from your Active Directory as well. But if we go into the directory here, expand this window a little bit. I don't have Active Directory integration turned on here, but I do have the Outlook integration turned on. And we can see the sources here. So if I had Active Directory integration turned on, the source would list AD as well. But in this case, I have my system directory entries that come from the ShoreTel system. I have the Outlook integrations where it pulls my contacts from Outlook. And then where's one of the, oh, there's the personal directory where I added my mom. We also have things like system extensions in here for the voicemail login, auto attendance. Here's some of the IVRs for our contact center system. So yes, it is possible on the administrative side to do that. It does take a little bit of work, but we have a lot of folks using that currently. Any other questions, Tom?
Yeah, I have one more question. Will the client work on Windows Terminal Server?
Terminal server and Citrix environments, there's some additional setup required for that. So if you're looking at doing that, reach out and we can get you the instructions for setting that up correctly. But it does work. The soft phone functionality does not. All right, well, let's move on through some more of Communicator here. We've got a lot of things that we can cover. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the voicemail tab here. The voicemail tab is my favorite part of Communicator, mainly because you can do so much more with your voicemails from here. Since having Communicator, I don't use voicemail on my phone at all anymore. I am going to leave myself a voicemail message here. And that's going to take a minute for me to get going there, but in the meantime, from the voicemail section here, we can actually send new messages. And this only works with other people on the ShoreTel system, but I can even click my to box and find people instead of typing in their names. So I can send a message to Gonzo. I can give it a subject line. I also have a few options for the voicemail message: urgent, private, and return receipt. Urgent marks it as an urgent message. On the administrative side, if their escalation profile is set up, urgent can trigger those. For private, you get a message that precedes the voicemail, letting you know that it's been marked as private and maybe you shouldn't listen to it on speakerphone in the middle of the conference room. And then return receipt is the most fun. With return receipt, as soon as somebody listens to that message, I get a notification in my voicemail box letting me know that they listened to it. And you cannot cheat your way out of it. As soon as you listen to it, that message goes out, and I know that you've listened to my message. And then you can also choose to record from your phone, which is the default here, or I can use my PC microphone if I have one attached. And I can use the controls here to record my message and send it out to whoever I want on the ShoreTel system.
And the same goes for forwarding voice messages. You can just select your inbox, you can forward it and append your own message to it. So it works really well. We use it quite a bit.
Yep, it is a great feature. And I am just about to call myself. And while I'm getting that message sent over, we'll move over here to the call details tab. The call details gives you any details of the call that you've been recently on. And I can see all the information about my call, what time it took place, the number that I called, any kind of status about it. You can also get to that from an active call by up here in the gold bar, clicking on the call details box. And that'll take you right here. This is also where you can add notes to a call, and the notes stick with the call. So I added that note here. If I transferred this call over to Travis, he could see that note in the call details and add to it. And so anybody that handled that call could look back at those notes, and if Travis added a note that said that the call got disconnected, I could look at that and see that note as well. I'll go ahead and end that call. And you'll notice I hung up the call, but I haven't hung up my handset yet. We have these icons on the top here that show your status for the phone, and it shows that I'm still off hook. And again, that's pretty instant. So as soon as I hung that up, it went back to on hook. We also have our mute button. If you are like me and have terrible sneezes that would blow out people's ears, if I quickly reach for my mute button, half the time I hang up my phone. So instead, I can just use the mute button up here. You want to make sure that you look closely at it. You can see that we're muted. We've got the X over the handset there letting us know, and the microphone is now an orange color with a line through it. Please double check that before saying anything you don't want people to hear. If you click it again, we go back off mute. If you were to call into some kind of menu system and you need to send DTMF digits, you don't want to press the buttons on your phone, you can just click these squares up here, and that'll bring up the keypad. And you can hear, as you click buttons, it sends it to the phone. In the gold bar here, we have several icons. The first one is hold, the music note. If you click that, it will place the call on hold. And we can also see up here that the call is held. Above that, we have our timers running, and we can see it's keeping track of how long I've been on hold, as well as the total duration of the call. So I've been on hold for 20 seconds now, and the total call has been 1:30 almost. If I click the green handset, that'll unhold the call, and I'm back on the phone talking live. Next up is the transfer button. If you click the transfer button, it brings up your transfer options. I can type in an external phone number or an internal person's name. And once I highlight one of those options, I have all of my options below, all of my buttons below for transfer, consult, to mailbox, and intercom and whisper if you have those available. From this box, the transfer button is a cold transfer. If I were to click that right now, my call would be sent over to Gonzo. Gonzo's phone would ring, and the call would be there. Happy birthday. The consult button is a much nicer way of doing that. That puts my caller on hold, connects me with Gonzo, and I can say, hey, Gonzo, I've got Nick's test phone on the line, and Nick's test phone wants to talk to you about the support call that they had earlier. And then it'll give me the option to say yes or no. I want to transfer that call on through to Gonzo or not. I also have the to mailbox option. If I know Gonzo's out of the office and I just want to transfer you directly to his mailbox so you can leave him a message, you can just click to mailbox, and that'll send the caller straight to his mailbox and off of my phone. Now, the conference button looks almost exactly the same as the transfer button. And it's phone with a plus on it. If we click on that, we have the same search box. And we pull Gonzo again. This time I have conference instead of transfer and consult. So if I click conference, it brings Gonzo's phone. We're all in conference together. Again, not the nicest thing to do. Maybe Gonzo doesn't necessarily have time to talk to us right now. And the last thing you want a customer to hear on the phone is, I'm sorry, I don't have time to talk to you right now. So using the consult button again is best. That's going to put my caller on hold, let me talk to Gonzo and make sure that Gonzo is actually available for this conference call and wants to be on it. We also have our IM button. If I was talking to somebody that was on the system, I could click on the IM button and it would send them an instant message. And last but not least, the hang up button. If I click this, call is gone, we're done, and I can hang up my phone now. Up above the status bar there, we have the search box. And this will search for anything in the system. You can also type in phone numbers. If I wanted to call a local radio station, I can just type that in and hit enter, and my call goes out. Oh, and they're not taking phone calls right now. Guess I'm not going to win. I can also use inside contacts for that. There's Fozzie Bear. And the call goes out to Fozzie. So very handy. That'll go through any of your contacts, any of the system directory contacts. It finds them there, and we'll let you just type in and go. So actually, if I only partially type in Adtran and hit enter. Thank you for calling Adtran Customer Care. Your call may be monitored. The call will just go out. So it's a very fast way to make calls, especially if you're making a lot of calls all day long. I prefer using that search box. You can also copy and paste into there, and it does translation on its own. So if you typed in 1-800-COMCAST, it'll actually connect and read that out for you. All right. Directory we went over a little bit. We have everything that's in the system, any extra numbers there for them. You can sort by any of your column headers, ascending or descending. You can also search. There's only one Kermit, I guess. We've got 2 Nicks, and you can see one of them is my Outlook personal contact. So yeah, this is going to be everything on the ShoreTel system. And then any imported contacts from Outlook or Active Directory if you have Active Directory turned on. Next up, the History tab. History tab is your last 1,000 calls to, from, or missed. Just like the Directory tab, you can sort by column header. You can also search. We can see a lot of information about the calls here. Expand a couple of these a little bit. And if I right-click on any of these calls, I can go to Properties and look at the call details for that call. I can see that I called Chris Riccio. It was a 30-second call. And I can see all the destinations that hit to get to Chris. So I didn't call him directly. I ended up talking to him now. There were no notes on this call. I can add notes after the fact. And then if you're ever providing call information to our support department, this is where you get that info. There's a support info link. And then here is your call GUID, and that's the information we usually request if you have a problem with a specific phone call where maybe it didn't sound right or something weird happened. You can copy that information and email it to us. And we can find out more about that call for you. We also have the search history here. Looks like I've made 4 or 5 calls to Fozzie Bear. He's a funny guy. You can also sort from to or missed and look through calls that way as well. The default is by date. One thing to note about the history tab is it doesn't automatically scroll to the top. If you're like me and have your computer up and running for 300 days at a time, the last time you looked at history is where you're going to be at in your history. So you do want to make sure that you've scrolled to the top if you're looking for something recent. Any other questions so far, Tom?
So we have a couple. The first question here is, are the notes that are being saved in Communicator HIPAA compliant?
That is an excellent question. I don't believe so. I'd have to verify that for you. So if you can take down contact info, I can double check that and reach back out. But I'm pretty sure they're not HIPAA compliant.
Okay. The next question is, I have noticed if people call and then hang up after only one ring, it still shows up as a missed call. Why is this?
I mean, technically the call was missed. It wasn't picked up before the caller ended the call. And that's just how ShoreTel has the missed call functionality built in. Unfortunately, there isn't a good way to change that. So we're stuck with those short calls showing up as missed.
All right, and one more here. Can I be notified by text to my smartphone or by email to my work account of missed calls?
Missed calls. I have not seen any plugins come out, any add-ins come out that will do that for you. But yeah, Tom, if you want to grab some contact info, we can dig a little bit deeper into that and see if anybody's come out with something recently for that.
To add on that, I mean, you could set it up to where your calls fork out to your cell phone at the same time. So you could ring your cell phone and your desk phone at the same time, which is actually a really nice feature. So you could answer the call on your cell phone, sit back at your desk and move it back to your desk phone or move it back to your cell phone. But the point of that is if you did have that and you did miss the call, it would show up as a missed call to your cell phone. And we can send the original caller ID so you could see which call you missed. But as far as not having that turned on and just having the system notify you that you missed a call, I don't think that there's anything like that. Obviously, it can email you when you have a voicemail, or it can actually send the WAV file attachment as well. But I don't know about missed calls.
And that is an excellent segue. So additional phones, something that we use at Inflow a lot, and a lot of our customers use it, and it's fairly easy to set up. So from the Communicator client, if you go up to your primary phone drop-down and choose the Configure Phones option, we can add phones in here. I'm going to add in my test phone. And I'm going to add in another phone. Okay, and then once I've added those phones in here, you have the ellipses box to the right. That lets us say how many rings we're going to ring that phone for. This is super important because sending calls out to cellular carriers adds an extra 2 rings. So if you were to pick up your handset right now on your ShoreTel phone and dial your cell phone, there's up to about a 2-ring delay before that call actually starts ringing on the cell phone. So if you leave this for the default of 3 rings, your cell phone's only going to hear 1 ring before it stops trying it. So we usually recommend people go for 5 or 6 rings here if it's going out to a cell phone. Now, the other important thing here is to press 1 to answer calls. Now, if this is checked and a call reaches out to your cell phone and you pick up from your cell phone, you get the voicemail robot voice. It says, you have an incoming call, press 1 to accept this call. What that does is it keeps calls from being connected to your cell phone voicemail. I would much rather have any of my work calls hit my work voicemail box, just so I can keep track of them better. And half the time, the voicemail message on my cell phone is some kind of practical joke, which isn't the best to send people to for work. So press 1 to answer, keeps calls from going to your cell phone's voicemail. I'm going to click OK on that. And now, if I go back to my primary phone dropdown, let's see, I created those 2 options. And this is for the external assignment, but I can now click on mobile. And if you were to call my desk phone, it would ring directly out to my cell phone. It wouldn't even ring my desk phone anymore. It just goes straight out to the cell phone. If I'm going to be out of the office for a while and don't want my office phone ringing, I can do it this way. I can also go into my configure phones. And then incoming call routing. Now that I've set those phones up, I can say that I want to simultaneously ring my mobile phone if I'm in any of these call handling modes. And I can check the ones that I want to do. So now, only if I'm in standard and you call me, it'll also ring my test phone. There's also the Find Me functionality. It's a little bit less used, but it is an option. I can have it so that if you get to my voicemail, you can then have the option to dial out to my other phone. And they're just, they don't know what the phone number is when that happens. They just get the option to try and ring out to your extra phone. And like Travis had mentioned, we can send the incoming caller ID. So instead of seeing my office phone number on my cell phone, I see the caller ID of the person that was actually calling me in the first place. And that's not always allowed by all carriers, so it's something that you want to check in with your ShoreTel administrator with if you're having problems with it. That's something we can, in almost all cases, work around. But definitely want to test it out first, just to make sure. If you're using the Find Me function when they get to voicemail, you can also require them to record their name before that call gets sent out, so that if you don't recognize the phone number, you get the recording and it says, "Hi, it's Nick," and can take the call or ignore it depending on how much I've been calling you recently. And that is incoming call routing. Any other questions there?
We have a few here.
All right.
Moving up to the first one here. Give me just a moment. All right. The first one is, I transfer my desk phone to my cell phone, but when it rings over, it only shows my desk phone number as the caller ID. Therefore, I don't know who I missed a call from. Did I hear you say there is a way to have the ID of the caller, not the desk phone number?
Yes. So we'll go back into primary phone and then configure phones. And then on the incoming call routing, I'm going to make sure that send incoming caller ID is checked. And again, that will send through the caller ID of the person that was calling you, but not all carriers allow this by default. So the phone carrier that your office is using may not allow this, or at least in the default configuration. So sometimes some extra work has to be done on the administrative side to make that work. And if your company's having problems with that, just put in a support ticket, and it's usually a pretty easy fix for us.
Okay, one other one here. Can I have my voicemails transcribed and sent to my email?
Ooh, there is a scribe service. It's an add-on to the base ShoreTel system, but there are some transcription options available.
Okay. The next question here. Is there an icon for those associates who have their phones set to forward to their cell phones? For instance, if they are on our contacts tab, an icon would be next to those people, or is there not a separate icon?
Unfortunately, not a separate icon. It's meant to be seamless, really, so that I can forward out to my cell phone, and as far as anybody else is concerned, it's like I'm sitting at my desk. If you hover over their name, though, see if we can get the box to show up. Yeah, it's just going to show that I'm in my standard call handling mode. So no additional notification for the external assignment.
Okay, the next question, I'm actually not sure what it's referencing. Can that be set as default, or do I have to do that each time? I'll come back to that one. Michael, if you could throw in another question, just explaining which one you were looking at there, we can get you your answer. The next question is, what is the last checkbox on incoming call routing?
So if you're using the Find Me feature, if somebody reaches your voicemail box and you have this checked, it automatically calls whatever phone I've set here, so my mobile phone. Without that checked, when I get to your voicemail, it'll say, you've reached Nick, I'm not available right now. If you'd like to find me, press 1, I think is the option number. If I automatically find me, then it just automatically reaches out to my cell phone or whatever phone I've set up in there.
All right, the next question is, sending a voice file with voicemails to my email standard? How do I turn this feature on?
Yeah, we've got enough time to look at that real quick. So if we go to our voicemail here in the options, and if you can always go to the swirly ShoreTel S logo here and go down to the options and choose voicemail. By default, message delivery is turned off. And there are actually 2 ways to do this. So this is email notification, and we can email a WAV file or just email a notification. And the notification is just a little bit of text that says, you've received a voicemail from this phone number, and the voicemail length is this many seconds. If I do WAV file, it also attaches a WAV file that I can then listen to from whatever device I'm on, which is pretty handy. That's what I use. That way if I'm out and about, I can get a WAV file on my cell phone and just play it back. There is one other delivery option, and this one's kind of tricky. This is the Outlook integration. And I don't have that turned on here because I don't have Outlook installed on this guest OS. Oh, actually I just did. But regardless, if you turn on the Outlook integration, and that's this voicemail integration with Outlook, all I have to do is click install. I just have to have Outlook closed. It's a plugin that runs in your Outlook client. So you can only see it from a computer that has Outlook on it that you've installed the voicemail integration plugin. And what that'll give you are controls in your voicemail that look kind of like these here. So you'll get a notification email that has a play, stop, and a rewind button in it, and you can play directly from your Outlook client. Again, that wouldn't show up on your cell phone or anywhere like Outlook for the web. It would just be for your installed Outlook client on your computer that you run Communicator on.
All right, and the last question here, this is the follow-up from the one before from Michael. Can you set the feature to have calls ring simultaneously to a desk and cell phone as a default, or do you have to set that every time?
Yeah, you can set that as a default. So first you set your phones up here, whatever phone numbers you also want to have ring. And then under incoming call routing, we tell it for ring additional phones which call handling modes we want to use for that. Personally, I do standard and out of office. And then I am checking a meeting because I don't want my cell phone to go off when I'm in meetings. Okay, simultaneously ring my mobile. And I could even add a second phone to simultaneously ring if I wanted to, if I had another phone to ring. And now, once that's set, that's it. If I'm in standard or out of office and you call me, my cell phone's going to start ringing if I don't pick up quick enough. As you have to remember, there's that 2-ring delay going out to a cell phone. Does that make sense, Michael?
He says yes.
All right. We're getting low on time here. Any other questions on Communicator before we hit the 11 o'clock?
Give him a moment here.
Yep. With that HIPAA question earlier, I would say I'm 95% sure that it is not HIPAA compliant.
Nick, can that be turned off? I'm assuming we have a lot of healthcare customers. I'm assuming that's...
Just using the call notes in general, I believe that's a class of service setting on the administrative side. I'm just pulling that up. Yeah, allow call notes is a class of service setting. So we can turn that off administratively. And actually, the same thing goes for the external assignment and the ringing additional phones. That is an administrative permission. So in most cases, that's available, but your company may have turned that function off. So if you try to use that and it's not working, you just want to check in with your IT department and see if that's enabled.
So if you have any questions about Inflow, please call us at 8444-INFLOW. If you have any questions on training, you can just email, or you can email training@inflowcommunications.com. I'd also encourage everybody to go to our website, look at our live web stats, more importantly, look at our upcoming webinars that are coming up off our homepage, and then look at our new knowledge base. There's a lot of really good, especially for ShoreTel administrators, a lot of really good information up there. And or go to our YouTube channel to look at all 60 plus videos that we have, training videos, admin training videos. So on that note, we'll adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining, and we'll talk to you next time.